Hey everyone, it's Erin with Hail Varsity, joined by Brady, also of Hail Varsity. It's Thursday here at Memorial Stadium. We just wrapped up post-practice availability. We didn't get to see any practice today, but we did get to hear from a couple of coaches, quite a few number of players.
There was a handful of numbers out here.
But we got to hear from a good variety of people that we haven't heard from before. So let's just dive into this. One of the people we did hear from, and I know you were standing over there, I didn't get to hear from him, was Tony White, defensive coordinator. What were the big takeaways today?
It was really interesting. I mean, he spoke for like 13, 14 minutes in total. So we got a lot of insight there. Basically, they've started to kind of dial back the playbook a little bit more so that they can kind of focus, finite, make sure that guys are confident in knowing what their assignments are and what they're doing, confident towards the ball. Just tackling is, even in thud periods, it's a very big priority for this coaching staff. Tony White, Matt Rule, all of them involved. They want to make tackling a big emphasis, especially with how they want to get after the quarterback. Tony White talked about how aggression is with everything that they do. Everything is with a pass rushing presence involved, and that goes into lineups, schematically where they line up, but also with the personnel. I mean, he talked about how they've got 5, 6, 7 real good, like top tier pass rushers that they're trying to develop and that they like already. He talked about the secondary, and they've got about 5 guys that they can kind of line up and move around. He said even Miles Farmer's playing like he could play some corner. He's not going to lock down anybody into a position. So it's really fascinating. I'm sure if you want to know all about it, read about it. I got something for you.
We also have the full video from Tony White here on YouTube as well, so you can just watch it as well. But I do recommend checking out what Brady is talking. You can go to hailvarsity.com all the time and read what we have put together for you.
Yeah.
What's interesting about what you're saying is a lot of that is actually similar to what Rob Dvoracek was saying as far as the linebackers are concerned. Just want to point out really quick, when you look at him, we were saying that he looks like he could be related to Cam Jurgens, at least tight end Cam Jurgens before he moved to center. But no, he was saying that like people have commented on that, like on staff and on the team, that like they look alike. So we were joking that maybe they should roll Cam out sometime and see if people notice who it is. So keep your head on a swivel. But he was talking a lot about that too, of like how players are moving around, they're trying players at different spots, they don't want to really lock anyone in, because he's in an interesting situation where he has some defensive linemen that could be a linebackers that could be linemen. Like there's a lot of moving pieces to this, and he said the one thing that has been really consistent is he's really enjoyed working with Tony White in this defense. He said that like Tony White is awesome about taking feedback, they work really well, but like learning the defense has been a lot of fun. And he's just excited to keep seeing players progress. I even asked him about like the fundamentals that we keep hearing about, and he just said, we just spent a lot of the spring focusing on tackling, focusing, like you were just saying. It's very, I think a big takeaway I have so far through spring ball is the staff is very much on the same page. Now, Matt Rule has said this is the time of the year when you win. You don't win in the fall, you win now. And so you would assume that if everybody's on the same page, working toward the same goal, that will ultimately have an effect on the results in the fall. And so we'll be able to like go back in time and like look at it with hindsight when we get to that point. But it is interesting when you listen to them that they are all very dialed in on the exact same points. And so what Tony White is saying, Rob Dvoracek is saying, and then you're also hearing that with the players. And we did hear from a number of them today too.
Yeah, and even just goes over to like Tony White, and we had Elijah Judy, some defensive players, talk today. They talked about the brotherhood that they see and the bonds that are formed, even on the offensive line. Nori talked today about just that, like the camaraderie. Obviously, he's got his own thing of having to come back, and he's got that interior drive to want to come back and actually perform. He talked about how he let his family down and let his teammates down, but he's back this year, and he's got a smile on his face, and he's talking about all that he's worked through. And I think it was Tony White even said, like, you look at the work that Donovan Rail is doing with that offensive line, there's a brotherhood, there's a shared camaraderie there. I think Elijah Judy had even mentioned going up face-to-face with those guys. I mean, they're performing well. The players are bought in entirely. They're talking about the physicality of it and knowing that competition, nobody's going to shy away from it here, otherwise you're really not going to make it. I mean, they're buying in wholesale to wanting to be better. Iron sharpens iron, all of that. And I think even you just see it in the look of them. I mean, like Nori talked a little bit about, and I think Elijah might have mentioned, just Corey Campbell and strength and conditioning staff. They're yoked. I mean, they look just like like it was Blaze Gunnarsson on Tuesday. I looked at it and I'm just like, this man could bench press a city bus if he wanted to.
Let's make that content happen.
Come on now. Come on now.
No, I mean, and even like with Stephon Wynn, he was talking a little bit about his decision to return for another year. And like, I mean, he's in his 6th year of college now. And so there's a lot that goes into that decision. In fact, if you're a Hail Varsity subscriber, you know that it's a similar decision when I had a story on Ben Stilley a couple of years ago and the decision to return, especially for linemen. It's very, very hard to keep putting your body through, especially when the NFL is your goal and your dream. Like, you have to start weighing, like, do I move on? Do I go because I want to protect my body? But Stephon Wynn is back. He's excited for what's ahead, and he talked a lot again about that. Like, it's just the way that they speak of each other and the way that they're like talking about each other and what they're proud of or what they're seeing. And like, I get it. For the record, I get it that this is spring, hopes are high, everything is a little bit of the Kool-Aid, and I understand that. But I think as somebody who's now been covering Nebraska for the better part of a decade, it is a good sign, at least, when everybody feels like they're working towards the same goal. Now, you need that goal to ultimately come to fruition when you get to the fall, but it's at least the step toward that. Like, you don't want to have like chaos and confusion now. That's not what you want. Because if you have chaos and confusion and people working differently or not on the same page or not bought in, it's only going to make it more difficult to get to the goal you want to in the fall. So at least this one box, somewhat checked.
Check it.
And then one last final thing on Nori. I think it's really important because we heard a little bit about this from Isaiah Garcia Castaneda on Tuesday. A lot of these players are also looking forward. They do not want to keep looking back. They're happy to answer questions. They're happy to go through like maybe things that went into decisions or what happened, but like they're really also wanting to talk about what's next. And some of you have commented on that about with Isaiah, you know, like, oh, I felt he was asked too much about. And my thinking now is he has been asked. So the next time we speak to him, it really should be on to the next. Like, it needs to be completely about the future. But that was where Nori was coming from too, is like, I'm happy to answer these questions for you. You have a job to do, but I'm also ready to move forward and look toward the future. And I also find that to be really interesting as well, because it is not a dwelling on the past. It's a, we're eager to see what we can do now. What was, let's move forward.
Yeah, and full transparency, I thought the way Nori handled it was really classy and interesting. I mean, he had a full statement prepared, he brought out, you know, by that time he was one of the last ones, so he had a pretty good media scrum coming in around him. Just said, hey, before questions, I got a quick thing to say, and then just read off a prepared statement that he had talking about everything that happened last year. Again, like, he felt like he disappointed people, let teammates down, let family down, people that wanted to come see him. And then now, again, just kind of turned it around. It's like, with that being said, you know, I'm looking forward to this one. I understand you guys have a job to do, but I'm looking forward into 2023. He got asked a couple of times in reference to last year, but mostly how like that lay dormant and is like fueling him a little bit this spring to want to get going. And he's, again, like every answer he had was just with a smile and was just, you see the joy for football and the joy to be back there. He talked about how he did everything, like all team activities and everything with them last year, but and if for anybody who's played football, if you do everything with the team but you're not allowed to play, that's bad.
Yeah.
That's terrible. Like, the game is the fun part where you get to unleash all of that onto the other team. Mm-hmm. To just not have that reward or release of a game on a big environment like that's got to be trying for him. So he's coming back on the end of that, feeling good. His body feels good thanks to Corey Campbell and his strength and conditioning staff. Offensive line feels good with all of them. He complimented Ben Scott and said he's hilarious and fits right in.
I've heard a lot about Ben Scott.
Yeah.
His name comes up a lot from other position groups too.
The milkman cometh for everyone on that offensive line.
Well, if you would like to see exactly what Nori had to say, as well as everyone else, we do have all of those videos here on our YouTube channel. You can head to hailvarsity.com. You can check out everything, the post-practice recap from Brady, future stories throughout the weekend also from Brady. I do want to just do one really quick little plug. Nori was actually the cover of Hail Varsity in, I believe, October 2021. October, November, I'm pretty sure October. Regardless, his story now only becomes more interesting to follow, but he talked about just what motivates him then, so it's going to be really interesting to see him kind of put that all together. So please check out his video, but also let this be a reminder that you need to subscribe to Hail Varsity, because we have really great stories and the yearbook is coming. So head to hailvarsity.com/subscribe, become a subscriber, but also be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Go follow us on all of our social media accounts because we'll get you covered.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you later. Thank you, Brady.
No problem. Help me feed my dog. Subscribe today.